I'll make sure she joins. Hey y'all, we had some technical difficulties, but we got them all worked out. And so she's going to be joining here, and then we're going to start at the top. Because I totally want you guys to meet Ruan. She is phenomenal. She has except
yay, we figured it out. That was sort of painful, right?
we got it done. Water under the bridge. Okay, so welcome to Let's Go Live. I'm Gigi Meyer, and I have with me Spicy, Happily Ever After, multiple pen name, multiple subgenres, author, and podcaster Ruan Willow. Wow, Ruan, that's a lot.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to talk to you. We had a good time, and when I hung out with you on your podcast, and so I invited you over here, and it's been a bit, and so I'm glad that we could connect.
Oh, me too. Yeah, I had a blast when we chatted on mine. It was so much fun.
Thank you so much. You're so sweet for that. So, okay, I just want to tell everybody right away, 58 book titles. Girl,
well, some of them are short though too. Like some of them are novellas, so you know.
58, 5-8. Okay, let me just like bow down. You are and then hundreds of hours of podcast, hundreds of interviews, probably thousands of hours. It is so impressive. So we have a lot to talk about, and we're only on here for an hour. So I want to talk about the author side first, and then we'll get into that spicy podcast side.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so starting at the top, you do have the 58 titles. And when I looked at those, I could fairly say under the romance genre. But wow, the subgenres are really wide. I mean, you have almost every subgenre represented. So how in the world did you pick this, and why do you have all these different subgenres? Like, what is the fuel and motivation behind that?
Well, I guess I'm a kind of person who I can't really seem to do one thing. I have too many interests. And here's the other crazy part about me too, is that I actually write under my real name as well. And I have, I even have a YA published with a publisher. So I'll even go like sweet end there. And I just finished editing my new adult romance. So I go the full entire gamut of romance, from, you know, YA all the way up to very, very spicy stuff. So I don't know. I guess I just can't confine myself like that. I'm not, I don't know. My brain goes too many different places to focus in, but I am trying to niche down a little bit, which is why I'm doing the multiple pen names. So it's kind of a more of a focus on subgenre in those particular pen names.
Organized. I can understand that, because you have some readers that are clean and some that are like super dark spicy.
Yeah. And so I think it's also helpful for people reading too to know, okay, oh, this pen name is this and this pen name is that. Otherwise, you know, you're scrolling through everything, and I do have a wide variety. So if you really are not someone who's really open like I am to like everything, then you might be someone who can, you know, focus on a pen name. Be like, okay, I like romantasy, so I'm gonna pick Ruan. You know, it's just a way of like categorizing it, I think.
Okay, so I said the 58 titles under your name, but that's even more under your other pen names. So can you tell us from the top what your pen names are, and then what are you writing, what subgenre, so that way the audience can match? Because you're right, people want to, if they only read sweet, clean, small town, they're not going to go over here to like super spicy,
right,
you know, mafia, or, you know, other super spicy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I generally don't talk about, other than in general, is stuff that I talk under my real name. But so I'll start with Ruan Willow. Right now, Ruan Willow is broad. There's like all different things, but I'm trying to also pair it like as a co-author. So like Ruan and Ruan Willow, I put them together. And so I just started doing that one. That one is my Open Door HEA Spicy Romantasy pen name.
The one you're putting out in, that's one of the ones you're putting out in January.
Yes, yes. So right now I have my person collecting names for people who want the ARC of that, and that'll come out the end of Jan or no, December. And then January 3rd is when that book will go live. So I have one out already, the first book, which is Wingless Hunger. And this one is a siren who couldn't sing. So this book too. And I'm going to keep going. And then kind of the way I've been doing it, I don't do this for all of them, but some of them I've done this way where I do a bunch of novellas and then I combine them all into one book. Now I haven't done that with every book.
Oh.
Like in Neighborhood Secrets, I just did a big giant book for that one. That one was not divided out like that. Okay, and then Ruan Willow, which I just spell R-U-I-N, Willow, is more spicy stuff like hot wife stories. Mm-hmm. People were, swinging, that kind of stuff. And then if you really want to go to my really spicy taboo stuff, that would be Ruan Willow, which is basically going to be on Eden Books and Smashwords only, because it's only allowed in those places. But I have a lot of things in both of those places too, so it's not just that particular pen name. Who knows? Maybe I'll make more pen names. I don't know what I'm going to do, but
Was that 4? Did I count 4 just now?
4, yeah. So I have 4, and then I have my real name. I guess then I have 5, right? I guess you could say.
Do you market on all those? Like, do you have social media for all of them?
I do, but I've really been laying off of my real name lately. But I do have a podcast under that name as well, mm-hmm. which I also make cookbooks. See, I'm just kind of like all over the place. So my podcast has really been helping me sell my cookbooks, which is just fantastic. I didn't expect it. It's kind of like a little side project that I do, and it's starting to get bigger. And I'm like, I just didn't expect that at all. So, I got to keep going with that on the side too. So.
Okay, you're a Renaissance woman. That's what it is, because I can barely keep up with one of my social media, and you're over there like, yes, I have like 5 social media accounts.
I don't even know how many I have so many. I have like a ridiculous amount of social, but some of them I haven't touched in a while, especially under my real name. I really haven't been focusing. But if I'm going to put this other book out, I'm going to have to start going there again too. So we'll see.
Okay, so walk us through, I know you can't really put up like a reading list, but walk us through what your different subgenres are. So if people were to like look you up on your handle to write this one, what would they find?
Well, let's see. I've got, like I said, I've got hot wife. I've got multiple partner. I do have some LGBTQ stuff. I have some lesbian, little bit of lesbian stuff, woman on woman, and then I have a whole lot of male female stuff. So I'm kind of all over the place. I just have a hard time niching down, which is the other reason I want to do the pen names, because it helps me niche down, but still be able to do all of the different things. And part of for me, what has really made it really kind of be so wide is doing the podcast, because I've also had to create so many podcast episodes. So a lot of times I'll take a podcast episode, I might create a fiction piece, and I'll take that fiction piece and I will turn it into a novella. I took about, 21 stories from the podcast, and I made a big giant anthology with them. So I'm reusing them. I'll take the podcast episodes and I'll turn them into audiobooks. So, a long time ago when I was starting, someone said, try to use your content in more than one place. Mm-hmm. So I try to do that. I try to put it all different places. I also have subscribers in my podcast, on Substack, on a Patreon. So I try to like put the things all across there so people can join where they want, but then I'm using the content more than once. So to me, that's just smart.
Oh,
to just use it in more than one place. As many places as you can put it, and now I'm a founding author at Theo Reads, so now I can take some of those and also put them on there for sale and some for free. So it's, I don't know, to me it just makes sense to do that. And did I answer your question?
Girl, we're gonna go all over the map. It don't even matter, because I feel like you're so creative. We're not even gonna be able to scratch the surface of how great your like mind works. But we sure will try to pull out that information.
Oh, and then I guess you were talking about the genres, the subgenres. And then I wrote this book called, it was 4 different stories, and it was wicked and spicy tales. And so I wrote a story, it was Halloween time, and I wrote a story, and it was a story about these wizards. And then I ended up putting 3 other stories with it, and people really liked it. And that's kind of what brought me to doing romantasy and thinking of doing like paranormal and stuff, because I didn't think that people would like it that much. And I was just like, oh, well, I like writing this, and if they like it, why not expand into that, right? So
it's huge.
That just kind of surprised me. So I'm like, okay, let's add that in.
Yeah.
Because, you know.
And I think horror romance is a little bit underserved, if you will.
Yeah.
I think there's more readers than there are books, because I know of 2 authors that love horror romance.
Mm-hmm.
And they write a lot of it. And so their books, I mean, their whole brand, though, is, of course, skeletons. And they do great around Halloween. When all that comes out, they're killing it.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, I was in a anthology around Halloween with a bunch of authors who write a lot of that stuff. And yeah, it was really fun. It was really great. So it's another way, and you know, that's another way to expand too, as a writer, is to join in anthologies with other people, because you can get exposed to their audience as well. And you know, anthologies are just fun because you get all these different brains in one book. Like that's, you know, I think it's also, you can find new authors, be like, oh, I really like this author, I'm going to look into them and see what else they have.
I love anthologies. I was part of one this August. Mine was probably like more dark romance. And you're right? So there's a common theme when you do an anthology. Ours was gods and goddesses. The next one I'm going to do is a flower theme. And the other one I'm going to do is like some fairy tale retelling, dark retelling. But yeah, they're fun because it has you as an author expand outside your comfort zone.
Exactly.
But Ruan, I don't think you have a comfort zone. I think you're already out there. You're like, yes, I'll do it. Yes, I'll write that. I love that about you.
Yes. You know what? I've even done I just did an audiobook, which I'm not going to spill the beans, but it's very taboo. And so I also just love to play the villain. I love to play the bad guy too, and do this extreme stuff, you know, like, you know, just be as extreme as possible. It's like super fun to me to just like act out, you know, the bad guy, you know, be the bad guy, be the bad girl. And it's just, I don't know. I think it's super fun to act those out. So I've done a little bit of that as well.
Villains are so much more fun to write, or morally gray or morally black. You're like, let's go.
Yeah. For sure.
That's why we're not clean romance writers, ma'am.
Yeah, except I have done that, and I do it a little bit. It was really hard for me to do this last one. Like, I actually wrote it back in 2020, and then I let it sit for a long time. And a publisher promised me they were going to give me a contract for it, and then COVID hit, and that disappeared. So, you know, and so I went back to it just this fall, and I was editing it, and I just so wanted to add more sex into it. Oops, I'm not supposed to say that word on here. I wanted to add more, you know, and I couldn't. So I was good, and I did it. But it was just funny because in doing what I've done the past several years, I just really, it was hard to not add that stuff in more than I did. Yeah, you know, I had to like scale back. It was tough.
It is tough. Okay, so I want to take a step back because you had said you take stories from your podcast. And I know that you also interview some really interesting guests. Yeah. So are these stories that they share with you and then you bring them to life?
Nope, I have never done that. I have narrated stories other people have written. I've done that, but I've never taken a guest story and turned it into a story. They're all my own stories, unless I say this is, you know, this is from so-and-so, you know, because I will do that. And right now I'm doing a series where I'm doing a little clip from, we did an anthology, a bunch of us, about 40, a little over 45 of us did the Not So Filthy, I forget, I'm terrible about remembering these things, but all the proceeds are going to go to hurricane relief. And so I'm doing a little snippet from a bunch of the stories. So that's been really fun too, because I get shorter, it's shorter. So people get these little shorter snippets, like, you know, 15, 20 minutes of an episode, maybe even 10, where I'm reading the excerpt. And it's really been fun for me. And I get to showcase the author too, which I think is just, which I love to do. You know, I know you like to do that too, obviously, because you do your podcast.
Well, I know Sadie King does all short fiction.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you've heard of her, but Sadie has like 125 titles.
Oh, and sure.
So she does like 9,000 to like 30,000.
Oh yeah.
Um, but I know there's a huge market for short fiction.
There
People love.
is. There is. I've had an author on mine. She was actually the organizer of this last anthology, and she has over 100 titles too, and they're all short. And she does fantastic too. There is a market for that people want these shorter pieces to read.
I think because you know we're all pressed for time.
Yeah.
So even though we want to read like a saga or you know like 125,000 words,
Right.
slow burn and world building, we don't have the time.
And so sometimes that is a thing. Yeah.
That's why I think your novellas or your short works are great because people are so pressed for time. They just want to have like a little naughty escape for that, you know, hour or 2 or 3 that they have to spare.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So what kind of schedule do you keep? Because I feel that you are doing so much. I am absolutely amazed. So I want to kind of pull back the curtain on how you get all this done.
Well, I write very fast, number one. I write very fast and I'm very devoted. I'm very determined. I work every day. I don't work all day like on the weekends. You know, that's more rare, but I work a lot. I'm very determined and I just have so many stories in me that I want to get out. So I'm not going to lay down and be slow. If I have something to say, to me, I'm not working fast enough. I'm not doing enough. like I want to be doing more. But you know, I do write pretty fast. The most I've ever written in a morning was 8,000 words, and I was pretty proud of that. That was just like
morning.
I was like, but then the rest of the day I didn't write. I often will like split my days into writing and then editing. You know, because I'm editing text, I'm editing, and audio editing takes forever. I mean, like forever. Yeah, when you're doing like an audiobook. Right now I'm doing an audiobook for an author in Ireland, and it's a short audiobook, but it still takes a lot of time because I'm also inserting the male voice. So he did some of the chapters, and so I'm inserting my voice for the female characters in the chapters he narrated, and then he did the male's dialogue for my chapters, and then I'm taking that and putting it into mine, and it just takes so much longer.
That takes long. What is that called? There's a dual narrative and duet.
Yeah, I know there's distinctions between them, but I'm not really good about knowing the terms. But yeah, there's dual, there's several different categories, but I'm not
You're
really
doing the hardest one then.
The worst I've ever done
was she says, he says, she says, and then you're going back and forth.
It's tough. It really just takes a lot of time. Like you're gonna add so much more time to what you're doing than if you're just editing one voice.
Correct. I can't imagine that. To me, that gives me hives. I don't want to
and then you got to make sure like one isn't like super loud and the other one's quiet. So you kind of want them to be around the same. So then you might be messing with the volume of it and
then the breaks, right? Because you can't have like one coming in breathy and the other one not, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. You know, I usually when I first started, I got really bad advice from someone. They told me in my genre, I should leave my voice in. Well, then some people, or my breaths in, but some people didn't like that. So then they would call me breathy, you know, like, he's this big giant narrator and he does amazing. And so I was like, oh, I was just following his advice. Don't pick on me.
Okay, so you divide up your mornings. So you're really like a Monday through Friday writer. And what time do you get started? Like what's a typical day?
Usually around 7:30 or 8. Usually when I get started. But I'll often, you know, even in the evenings, I might get on my computer or my phone and do some social media or something, you know, that kind of stuff. But I tend to write the best in the morning. Or if I like in the afternoon or evening, if I like go somewhere like a coffee shop, then that seems to work too. But at home, not as much. My brain gets too bogged down with everything, you know.
Do you write to a certain word count? Do all your series, like this next series, the Siren Who Lost Her Voice? Does that series have like a word count that you're trying to stay in? And so then you know approximately how long that takes you to write it?
Yeah, so that one, I think the first one was around 24,000, which this next one is also around 24 or 25,000. And I haven't decided yet if I'm going to be able to fit everything in 3 novellas or 4, and then I'll combine them all into one book. So people can, if they want to take a sample and read just the first one and see if they like it, they can do that, or they can wait and get the full book. I don't know if I'll keep doing things this way or not, but I guess for now it's what I'm doing. Well, I'll see. But I haven't done it every time.
Are they related stories, related characters, like a shared world?
Yeah, so it's like a series basically.
Oh, so it's like a box set, yeah.
Yeah, so it'll end up being a box set. But then there's so many different things you can do too. Like, if different cover for the paperback, or different than the cover for the ebook. I've learned that there's different ways you can do it. And I think it's beneficial to do that, especially if you want to get your books in bookstores, because some of the bookstores don't want the really spicy covers, Yeah,
no mail chests.
I mean, they used to be that way, right? Like they used to be that way. They would be, sitting out everywhere, and it'd be like people like kissing and whatnot. And now I feel like things have shifted where that's not as seen as I don't know, okay. People are more
just Greek covers have taken off, so I feel like it's just flowers.
Yeah, they really have taken off, and I don't know if it's a sign of our culture. I think I don't really like the negativity of that, but I guess it is what it is.
Well, that's how Fabio made his career.
Yes. I mean, to think that back then it was okay to have those kind of covers and now it's not. It's like you're going back in time. I don't understand.
And I don't know, that man did probably about 40,000 covers.
Mm-hmm. Right. Oh, for sure.
So this series comes in around 25,000 words. How long will that take you to write?
It doesn't take me very long at all. This one I actually just started, I don't remember if I started beginning of November or mid-November. I said, well, it wasn't that long. Oh, my thing keeps turning off on me. There we go. Yeah, so I started, I'm trying to remember when I started. So definitely a month-ish, I guess.
And then do you edit your own work, or do you have editors that you ship it off to?
I do edit it. I usually write it, and then I go through it, editing again. And normally, if I have the time, I'll actually narrate it as a process of editing it.
Oh,
because you do things out loud, you catch all these errors that you missed when you read it in your head. Genius. Like our brains just like gloss over these words sometimes, and we just miss it. So when I don't do that, I use 2 editors.
Yeah, but that's genius. But then, are you writing in dual POV or single?
I'm all over the place with that too, but this book, the series I'm doing right now, The Arching Hunger with the Wingless Hunger and the Siren Who Couldn't Sing, those are in the first one. See, I don't follow conventions, you know what I mean? Like the first one was all in her third person, her point of view. Now this second one is dual point of view, third person, past tense.
So who does the male? Do you have I
don't know what I'm going to do. I have hired male narrators, and I haven't decided. I get all kinds of different people. Some people like it when there's just so many opinions out there. Some people like it when it's all one voice. Some people like it when you have the dual. Some people like it when you change your voice. So the bottom line is you're never going to please everybody. So, but I have hired male narrators to work with me. I think I've tried 3 or 4, maybe 5 different ones. Mm-hmm. So, that's always an option. I haven't decided what I'm going to do for this one yet.
Well, it's tough because I know that audiobooks are really expensive, and for indie authors, a lot of the times, I mean, you're fortunate because you do have all the equipment, you have the know-how, you have the editing power to be able to do that, but most indies don't. Right. And so you're looking at, $2,000 to $4,000 just for one book to be, narrated, and it's expensive. And then you're right. Audiobook readers are very selective, and if you don't choose the right male voice that they think matches that character, they're not gonna. It's like a do not finish.
It's a whole different audience from the people reading the book to the people listening, and I think part of it too is that we have an instant reaction to listening to people, right? Like, it either hits us nice or doesn't, and so you're not going to get that when you're reading a book because their voices in your head. You imagine what they sound like because you're reading it, right? So you're going to turn off a lot more people in audiobook than you are in your textbook.
It's tricky. I wrote a book and he's Italian with an accent. And someone was like, wait, he's Italian with an accent?
Right.
So many times the way he like purrs her R, you know, Taylor, and then the R it purrs and all that stuff. And everybody's like, what?
You're like, how do you not know?
Yeah, did you not pick that up? Because it was in there a few times.
Right.
So, because you are such a rapid writer, do you have a plan on how fast you try and release? Or like now that we're wrapping up 2024 and you're looking at your plans for 2025, do you have a schedule?
I do. Like, I try to do 1 to 3 books a month, depending on how long they are. If they're shorter, I can do it. If not, then I can't. But so like last month, I only did 1. This month, I was going to do that one, but then I decided to push it to January 3rd. But I am in an anthology that went live this month. So I guess I am in one this month, except it's just that I wasn't the one in charge of it. But I am thinking ahead too, because I'm going to do my first ever book conference in September.
Ooh.
So
Where are you
I'm thinking,
going?
what do I want to have? You know, like what other books do I want to have done to present there? So that's definitely coloring what I want to do for 2025.
So across your 5 names, you try and publish 1 to 3 books a month, every month. Girl, how long have you been writing then, in general, your career?
Well, I mean, I started back in 2016 writing nonfiction under my real name, or 2016. And so I've done books. My cookbook was 2017. And I wrote, I don't know, 4 or 5 books under my real name. And then come 2019 is when I really started doing spicier stuff. And so I didn't really start publishing until 2021, spring of 2021, I think.
And that's when you went full time?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of still full time before, but I was doing stuff under my real name as well. So that's kind of when I became more into Ruan, doing, Ruan more full time than doing my real name. And so that kind of stuff just kind of sat for a while, but I'm getting back into that now too. So I'm like, I have these books sitting there, and that's just dumb, to have these books just sitting there. So I have 5 other books that I have just sitting on the back burner. I'm like, I have got to edit these and get them out, because I just feel like it's a giant waste, right? They're just like sitting on my computer.
I have 10.
Oh, good. So I'm not the only one.
They're in my vaults that I wrote, and I was like, oh, I don't know if these will ever see the light of day. But anyway, so don't feel bad for your 4 or 5.
Well, you can always edit them, and then they can be where you want them, and then you can publish them.
Exactly. So what has changed then from 2021 till now as a writer? How have you gotten better? What have you learned? What did you stop doing?
I think that I have definitely put a little bit more romance into it than I initially started out with, which I really enjoy. I have really learned a lot about how to publish, how to market, a lot about audiobooks, doing the audio. I just feel like, like I have over 500 podcast episodes, which is just really mind-blowing to me. Like, that's just crazy. It is a lot. And then I've just, and all the guests I've had too, I have to say, I feel like I've taken classes. They have taught me so much, and it's made me, I was already an open person, but once I did that, I'm just even so much more open. People are people, and I'm not going to go around judging people. Everyone has a story, and it's been invaluable to me. It's also helped me in writing. Like, say I haven't done a certain thing that I'm writing about, but if I've interviewed someone who's done it, it actually has given me information about how to write different things in different ways. So this is not something I expected. I didn't go into the podcast thinking that this is what was going to happen. You know what I mean? It's just like a major bonus.
It's market research. Yeah. I completely understand. When I host these authors, I did it because I wanted to support the community. I wanted to give back. I wanted to meet other authors. You know, it's just
Mm-hmm.
such a good community, the
Yep.
Bookstagram, and but I swear I learned so much from other people.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it would work within my works or my business, and maybe it wouldn't, but you know, all the same.
Right. And I think you also learn tips. So other people do different things, right? Like someone says, "Oh, I did blah blah blah." I'm like, oh, I never thought of that. That's a great idea. And you figure out how to apply it to your own work, you know?
Well, and I always say to new and aspiring authors, because there are so many out there,
Yes.
there's 100 different ways to be an author. You don't have to be traditionally published. You just have to find what works for you.
Yep.
And I think, you know, when we first start writing, we don't even know who we are as
Right.
a writer. You don't know if you're a night writer, a morning writer. You don't know if you write long sentences, short sentence. Are you super descriptive? Are you good at banter? Right? Some of
Right.
it is just teaching yourself like who
Yes.
you are, what your voice is.
Totally agree.
And that's why I always think, like, when I look at my earlier works till now, and someone picked up a debut novel, I'm like, oh, maybe you shouldn't start there. Maybe I should take that down and you should start later.
I know, like sometimes you want to just like go back and edit that and be like, no, but I don't know. You can't once it's published, right? Unless you want to unpublish it and redo it. But
Oh my gosh.
I don't usually.
Like, just I'm on the journey.
Yeah.
I'm always looking to get better at my craft. So just trust in that.
Exactly.
So that's fascinating. What did you say the conference was going to be in September? Is there a name?
Yeah, it's Books Eau Claire, so it's in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. So I think it's the first one they've ever done. So I think they said there was going to be about 60 authors. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. And it's going to be kind of weird because I'm going to bring books from even under my real name. So that's going to be really interesting. Be like, okay, here's the cookbooks, and as you go across the table, do the big spice.
That'd be so cute if you had some way, and you're so good at marketing already, but if you had some like spice meter, right? Like your tablecloth is like light pink, you know, fluffy Barbie, all the way to like jet black.
I've thought about doing something like that, like with the table banner or something, you know, like, or like a big giant slant or, you know, or color gradient or something like that.
Yeah. And then that way you can like, just follow the yellow brick road, you know,
exactly.
into the darkness over here. That would be so much fun. So would you say your ideas then come from everywhere? It comes from your guest. It comes from working with other authors on their audio projects. And so that's why you're able to be so proficient in your writing?
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. So yeah, I'm constantly getting ideas, but yeah, I'm also influenced. You know, how could I not be influenced by my guests? It's like impossible, right? It's, you know, having a conversation with someone, you learn so much about their perspective and what they've done and what they've learned. And so I really enjoy talking to people, and I really just learn a lot with them, and I have fun interviewing all these people. I really, really have fun, and I really like all these people. They're all amazing. So yeah, it definitely shapes what I do, and it influences my writing. Like I said, I didn't even expect that to be a thing, but it is.
Well, think about it, when we're out in a restaurant or something and someone comes in with like bright pink hair and has tats everywhere, you're like, oh my gosh, I need to write her into something, right? Because people are authentically them. And when people come in with their own identity and style, we follow them. You know, our eyes literally follow them across the restaurant because you're like, who are they? What's their story? Why are they about this?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've done that too. And that's how some of my characters are influenced by such things. Yeah.
And not to say that, I didn't mean to imply earlier that like you're taking their stories and making them yours, because I do talk to a lot of different authors and they do hockey romance. Girl, I can never do a hockey romance. I don't know the first thing about it. I'm in Houston. It's hot. We don't even have hockey. I don't even know if there's hockey even in the state of Texas.
I couldn't do hockey either. Yeah. I don't know enough about it. You know, like I wouldn't be able to do a sports romance unless it was really just barely getting into the sport of it, you know?
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I could do soccer and baseball because that's king down here. But you learn so much about people and their journey and what they try as an author, and what's working for them may not necessarily work for you, but you can try it. So I think that's very true.
And you got to be you can't be afraid to try stuff. I think that's the big thing too. Like you got to be fearless when you're doing this stuff. Be fearless.
I love that. I totally agree with you because I feel as though that prevents a lot of new and aspiring
Yeah.
authors to continue on their journey because someone, somewhere along the lines, it could be a family member, it could be
Yeah.
an editor. I've had an editor who didn't believe in me and I was like, oh, this is not going to work, right?
Right. Or a bad review. Like some people get shut down by a bad review. It's like everyone has people who don't like them, and we can't just let that box us in.
Yeah, I wrote a short story. It was 42,000 words. And one of the reviews was like, well, this story, and it literally is listed as like a 2-hour read. And so it was like, well, this story is too short.
What?
If only I marketed it as a short story.
Yeah.
Huh. But I agree with you. Do you think, though, you said that you write shorter. So what is your word count? Because I have a follow-up question to that. Typically, what is your range that you write?
Well, for that too, I'm all over the place. But I try to do. I've kind of been focusing more on like 4K for the podcast, so it's a shorter episode. So those tend to be a little bit shorter. I have done up to 10K on the podcast. And the longest book I have right now that I need to edit is in the 90,000 word range. I have a book out there, Neighborhood Secrets, which also has an extra word in there that I'm not going to say right now. But that one is in the 80,000s. And then
It's spicy.
Others that are 50.
It's spicy. That's why she can't say
Spicy, that's right.
Spicy.
Spicy. Yes, exactly. That's the right word. It's spicy. But it's true. It is spicy.
That's
It's
accurate.
So yeah, so I guess I'm kind of all over the place. I have some books in the 50,000 range. You know, I think it's until the story's done. You know, but also if you have more to say, like, you know, my Servicing the Workman, that one is around 50,000. But I already have several novellas and another short story for that. So it might be that, but then book 2 is going to add more to that too. So, you know, I guess I don't really confine myself to a word count unless I'm doing something like the podcast. I might try to do something a little bit shorter just because it's a lot to edit it. But then like I said, I turn around and turn them into audiobooks or whatever too. So, you know.
Well, because my question was, if you're writing shorter, are you able to pivot? Because sometimes we write and we love it, but it doesn't work in the marketplace. For whatever reason, it just doesn't take off.
True.
So does that allow you to pivot faster, or do you just continue writing it because you love it and maybe it hasn't found its readers yet?
Yeah, I think that's probably what would be my approach. Yeah, you know, and you know, I think some writers really have a lot of success, like that writer I was talking about earlier. She does all shorts, nothing long, and that works for her. But for me, I don't know. I guess I don't think I could do all shorts. I don't. My stories, the stories aren't fully told, some of them in a short. So there's going to be short ones, there's going to be medium ones, there's going to be long ones, and that's just how I roll. And I guess that's.
I feel short is harder to write.
Sometimes they can be if you're trying to, you know,
especially a happily ever after.
Right.
That's tricky.
This season teasing Snowbound Seductions. I just was in this anthology that went live. I went like 2,000 over the limits. I mean, they let me do it, but I'm like, because it was a slow burn. Yeah. It was a slow story, and they couldn't cut anything out. And they're like, just leave it. We'll put you at the end.
Oh, dang.
Because I'm the longest one.
Okay, see, that's what I need to read, because I always am fascinated by short reads because I just don't know how to. And I'm wordy. I have 2 editors. They cut it back. They're like, you know, and I'm like, I know. I'm like, I have to tell it to you 8 different ways because you didn't get it the first 7 times.
Right.
Which is totally wrong. Don't do that, guys. Don't do that.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I can get that way too, for sure.
So this is a great time to go into the podcast, because you had said, and I love this, I don't know too many authors that are doing this at all, period, point blank, but you take short stories and you actually are telling them via your podcast. So they're not audiobooks necessarily. They're ones that you create on your podcast. And then do you package them up?
Yeah. So often I will do that. I will package them up and I will publish them places. I might put them together into an anthology or an audio book that has multiple stories in it. So, to me, it's kind of like the podcast ends up being kind of like my little playground, and then I can use them elsewhere. So yeah, for sure.
I think that's genius. So in addition to your books that you write, that you intend for them to be books, you're also writing shorter stories that you are specifically intending to be on your podcast, to tell the story on your podcast, and then you turn them into audiobooks, and then you turn those products into regular books.
Right. And the other thing I'm doing right now is
genius.
I'm writing a book chapter by chapter for my subscribers on the podcast. So when I get done with that, I will have another book and another audio book from that. So week by week, I'm writing each chapter and then I'm narrating it. And so eventually I'm up to 40,000 words with that one right now. So eventually that one will be a book too. So this one actually started as a short story that I had. Actually, this one was weird. This one actually started out because I've done this thing too on the podcast where I do erotic improv. So like I'll sit down with an idea and spin a story off the top of my head.
No way.
So that's how this story started, was I did that particular episode and then I took that story, turned it into text, and then now I've been expanding on it. So I edited it and turned it into a story in a collection of short stories that I did, and now it's becoming a book. But yeah, I've done that lots of times where I just spin it off the top of my head. Like this is, it's I kind of think of it like comedy. And people are like stand up, sit there and then just say whatever stuff that comes to their brain. I can get in the zone and sit in this sound room and just create a story off the top of my head. And then I put it on the podcast.
Oh my gosh. Just cut, and right there. That's it. No more talking to her. This girl's just too talented for words.
Yeah, I'm not, and those end up they obviously need to be edited because they're, I might accidentally slip to the wrong tense or whatever. But, I tell people up front, this is improv. This is coming off the top of my head. This is not written down. This is not edited. This is just brain. You're in my brain.
Eminem. He can do like a rapper, right? These rappers just will freestyle.
Yeah.
And Eminem is like this amazing freestyle. And so you're basically like him, but for books. It's crazy. I am so impressed.
It's fun. I really like it. I always feel energized after I do it. I'm like, that was really fun. You
must have, so you have at least, 3 works? You have the book you're working on. You have your weekly segments to your subscribers, that story. Then you have these short stories. Then you still have your podcast guest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I misspoke. We need to back up and tell everybody what the name of your podcast is first.
Okay, I'm going to say, I have to modify it a little bit. So we'll say O-F star C-K, yeah, with Ruan Willow. If people follow that.
They're like, what? So it's O-F and then
O-F, then think star, there's a letter there, C-K, then yeah, with Ruan Willow. And I have just been having so much fun. And I've just reached over 1.1 million downloads with the podcast, which is like just so mind blowing to me too. And I rank in anywhere between 50 to 60 countries worldwide daily. People are listening to me all over the world. It's unbelievable.
That's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. But what I think is great is people are getting positivity about intimacy in countries that are very closed off and very restrictive and frowning on that stuff. And they're not getting any help or any guidance. And some of the people that come on are teachers, not necessarily teachers. Well, I guess coaches. Yeah. Doctors, therapists, personalities, other authors. I get people approaching me all the time to come on my podcast too. Like I'll get doctors and I'll get writers, people approach me like, hey, can I come on your podcast? So it's very flattering. I'm just amazed.
Well, I think it's the goodness of what you're giving out to the world, right? Over 500 episodes, over 1.2 million downloads. It's just proof is in the pudding what a good host you are. You're finding value in content that people really need and putting it out there. No shame, no judgment around it.
Yep.
It's very educational.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, I have tons of educational people on there. People are, I'm amazed at the things I've learned, just from these amazing people. There's so many amazing people out there.
Yeah, that are willing to come on. And I mean, you have even some really spicy guests on there, and they are wide open.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's a safe space for people to explore. Mm-hmm. And let's be honest, whenever you have a podcast, to me, podcasts in general are a level of intimacy. You literally have someone else's voice in your earbuds, in your ears.
Yes.
So that to me is a very close personal relationship with whoever you're listening to. Yep. And so the subject matter that you're providing is also very sensitive, and it's very private. And I feel like that's what brings the trust. That's why people keep coming back to your podcast to see like, oh, who does she have on now?
Right. Yep. That's probably true. Yeah.
That and those spicy stories.
Right.
When did you first start your podcast?
Let's see. I think that was January of 2021. And I first started it. I mean, I didn't really even think I'd ever do anything with my voice. Like I was just writing, and in 2019, I was just writing, and I actually started on Twitter. And then I started to write these little snippets that I put on Twitter. People really liked those. And then one day I recorded one and I put it out there, and people were like commenting that they liked my voice. And I was like, you what? I was literally like, what are you talking about?
You're talking about Willis.
Yeah, you're talking about Willis. And people kept saying it to me. And then people started saying to me, well, you should start a podcast. And I was like, no, I'm writing. How can I do a podcast? I can't do that. And so I had enough people say it to me where I'm like, oh, geez, maybe I should. And around that time, I had a man hear one of my tweets, and then he DM'd me and said, hey, I'm a director at a publishing agency. I really like your voice. You've ever done an audiobook? I'd like you to do one for me. And I was like, what?
What is this new world?
So that's how it all started. And that's how I found my mentor. He was friends with this person. And so from there, it just has grown. And now I don't even know how many I have, over 70 audiobooks, I think.
Wow. That's amazing.
And I've narrated, and it's not just me. I've narrated for, I think, I've lost count. I'm not very good with numbers. I think I've narrated for like 6 other authors, 7, something like that.
Wow. Okay, so let me ask you this. Are you still taking on work? And where would people find you if they're interested?
For audiobooks? Yep. I am on ACX. That's one place that you can offer a contract, or people could DM me, email.
Under what name though?
It would be on Ruan Willow. Yep. So Ruan Willow is my main name. So on ACX, I'm Ruan Willow. And then, people could DM me. Ruan Willow and Ruan Willow Author on Instagram. Ruan Willow on X. I'm on Threads too. I think I'm actually have 2 accounts on Threads, Ruan Willow and Ruan Willow Author. But Threads doesn't have DMs, right? They don't have DMs.
I'm barely on it. Like I'm super new. I can't keep up with social media.
It's hard.
I do have teenagers in my house. I should hand it over to them, but my content is not appropriate for my teenagers. But there's so much on social media.
DMs. I'm on Blue Sky too.
Oh yeah, the new one. Mm-hmm. So with your audio, and y'all, if you could see her setup, I wish y'all could, but you can't. But it is so professional, her setup that you have, because I was on it and I just came on like this. And you were coming on, and she has her like microphone right here.
Yeah, I have that right here. I'm actually in the sound. Right?
Oh, are you?
Microphone. Yeah.
And she looks like a podcaster, and then she has this really smoky voice.
Oh,
And I
I
was
have
like, you
done a
know,
lot in here, that's for sure.
I'm not gay, but
I'm in a closet. This is an under the stairs closet that converted into a sound room.
you're kidding, really?
Nope. This is a foam, like the sound foam for absorbing
Yes, yes.
sound.
The echo, yeah.
So you don't have
See, that just goes to show y'all can make any part work. She is in the closet underneath the stairs, soundproof to do audio.
That's how I started. Before I had this room, I would literally go in my walk-in closet because all the fabric in there, you want to have fabric.
Oh, to muffle, to block.
Yes, you don't want bare walls because that's where the sound bounces off. So it's best to, and it's so I would literally go sit in my walk-in closets and record stuff until I got this room set up. It works.
That's genius. Because I want people to know that I mean, it is expensive sometimes to be an author, but there is some low points of entry. There are places you do have to spend your money. If you are not a good editor, like me, you have to hire that.
Right.
If you're not a good graphics designer, like me, you have to hire that. You know, so certain things, if you're good at and you can leverage, then that's where you save money, right?
Right.
And that is, you know, your equipment is probably not cheap. And then to have your editing software, that definitely is not cheap.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. You know, and I bought it quite a while ago. So, it doesn't like stop working. It still works. Even though I don't have the newest model, the software still works great. You know, I don't really need an upgrade on that because I'm just totally fine the way it is. I do things though, like I turn off my heat or my air conditioning when I'm recording because it's more sensitive to picking up that kind of hum, so yeah, people can do those things. And people can order or hire people on Fiverr, to make a $10-15 ebook cover. There are ways out there to do it and start out cheaper. They can do it themselves on Canva. I mean, you could even try making your own. I've done that. I've made some of them myself,
Yep. I completely agree with you. And if you can't afford editing, there's always critique partners, that'll do it right. So,
oh yeah.
I know that it can be expensive being an author, but I try to offer ideas where, like, look, you can, if you have the will, we'll help you find the way, like DM me, DM you, we'll help people.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. There are ways to do it.
Did you have to learn how to train your voice though?
I don't know. Like for me, it just kind of to act them out just kind of comes more natural. And I think it probably stems from when I was younger. I would have loved to have gone into acting, so I kind of feel like I'm living out a dream that I had when I was a kid. Not only am I writing, I'm also acting. Like to me, it's just like I'm living my dream. Like that's crazy that I can do that, and the fact, so you can learn things like, for instance, audiobook stuff. I'm basically all self-taught. I had a mentor, but if you go on YouTube, there's a lot of educational videos on there to help you learn how to do it. And it's trial and error, and you can do it. I mean, I did it.
Yeah, I think I have a master's degree from YouTube University.
Yeah, exactly. YouTube, yeah, for sure.
I don't know how to do anything, and I'm like, how do I do that? 87 videos later, I'm like, oh, now I know how to do that. Now I can do that.
Just go to YouTube and look there, because yeah, people will put stuff on YouTube. So yeah, it's a way to learn.
Oh, thank God they put stuff on YouTube. I was on there today, like, okay, how do I do something in Goodreads of all things, right? Goodreads,
right?
This platform, and then there's me, like, oh, how do I do it? So yes.
What did we do before YouTube? That's the question.
I know. So let me ask you this. What is the hardest thing about being an author, being a podcaster, doing your own audiobooks? All of it, the totality of it all. Hardest part.
For me, I really hate editing text. But then you can also make it be more correct, more accurate. So I force myself to do it, but I literally cannot get myself to edit something a third time unless I have a lot of time in between. For me, that's the hardest. And
Okay,
Also, I guess,
I stop you there. You cracked the code though on editing. Girl, you said a long time ago in this interview, I like to edit where I create it as an audiobook. I'm literally narrating it into audiobook form. And
yeah,
I think that is the most genius thing I've heard.
yeah. It to me, it just made sense. I'm like, okay, I'm creating this stuff. Why am I not reusing it? So like, and I know that I have some on the podcast that I haven't dipped into yet. So that I have this backlog too that I can work on. And for me, I guess the hardest part is I have so many things I want to do and I can't do them fast enough.
Do you have an assistant?
I did start hiring some people. I hired someone to manage my ARCs and do some advertising for me with this book because it's really hard to do everything, right? I mean, it's just
so many hours.
It's hard. And I'm just very tenacious too. Like I don't know, if someone tries to stop me from doing it, it's gonna make me work that much harder to do it.
I love that. I know, because my kids, I tell everybody in my world, I'm like, tell me no, I dare you. And they're like, okay, it's not that deep. Okay, we don't need.
Exactly. See, and it backfires. Someone's trying to tell you not to do something, it's going to forge me through fire and I'm going to work harder to do it. Yeah.
I may have a little attitude too if a man tries to tell me. And then it's like, I will burn this mother down.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably not healthy. I'm sure there's a therapist that would be like, you need to come talk to me about this. But
nah, that helps us. You don't need to get rid of that piece.
Exactly. I'm like, yeah, that underlying rage just helps me stay motivated.
Exactly.
So you don't like editing. That's not a fan of it, even though you've like literally hacked it. What else was the hardest?
I think the hardest for me has been trying to not be so open. So, but that's what's got me into doing pen names. So I guess I kind of figured that one out too. I don't know. I guess just trying to get it all done. I just, if something isn't working, I just work harder at trying to make it work.
I feel like from the outside looking in, when I look at you, you're just having a blast.
I am.
You're having a blast. I feel like with that golden hair, you're probably on a beach somewhere, and this girl's like, I'm living my best life.
I am living a dream, something that I'm kind of doing. Didn't think I would ever do. I did not at all even remotely think I'd be doing audiobooks or a podcast.
No. And look at your numbers. They're phenomenal.
Yeah. It's crazy to me.
So if you had to give advice to new and aspiring authors, what would it be? Knowing what you know, which is vast.
Don't give up. Just keep going. Like in my head, I always hear, is it Finding Nemo, Dory, just keep swimming. Just keep going. That's always what I hear in my head. You get a roadblock, you get a bad review, you get someone saying, what are you doing? You can't do this. Just keep going. And yes, you can make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes. That's okay.
I love that because it's so true. Mm-hmm. And I think if you don't have anyone in your circle of influence to support you, reach out to other authors, reach out to bookstagrammers, bloggers, the book community, because I feel like you can find your people online.
Yeah. People say that online people are not as connected. They're on their phone all the time. But I feel like the world is more connected. I mean, just think we can talk to people and
us.
Yes. How far apart we are. We can talk to people from around the world instantly. You can make friendships all around the world like never before.
I think the ultimate compliment is when complete strangers want to read what you wrote.
Read
your work.
For sure.
Yet, you may not have your friend or your family member. They don't want to read it at all. And you're like, hey, what the hell?
Oh, yeah. Most of my family doesn't even know, other than what I have under my real name, what I write, because they're not my audience.
Right.
They wouldn't be. I mean, maybe a friend would, but I haven't even told that many friends what I do, which is kind of weird to be doing all this stuff and like not have told very many
Especially with your numbers, over 500 podcast interview, 1.2 million downloads, over 70 audiobooks, over 58 titles on one pen name, 5 pen names. I mean, the numbers are staggering. And you're like, people don't know I'm a big deal. I know them.
I think if I told some people that I have a podcast with over 1.1 million downloads, they'd look at me like I was insane. They'd be like, you what? You, like, yeah, but I don't know. I guess I'm just being me. I'm doing what